Good morning, everybody. I thought I'd give you a shake of my antler bells this morning to celebrate the fact that we've made it to the last week of the autumn term. One more week of school before we close for the Christmas holidays. And the first thing I need to do today is say a very, very well done to some particular children in year 3 and year 1. And they are Max and Lucy and Isabella and Zara in year 3, and then Isabella's brother Finlay in year 1, because they did something really special at the weekend that links a bit with our Christmas jumper day, because they took it upon themselves very altruistically, which is one of our key values, isn't it, to run in the cold 2 whole miles around Northowram. And they did that in a sponsored event to raise money for Overgate Hospice, which is the same charity that we were raising money for on Friday with our Christmas jumpers. So very well done to those children. Your families and your school family are very proud of you. So well done. Now, I've had some requests. I had some requests last week for something very particular, and it's a story that I read to the older children in Key Stage 2 exactly this time, in the last week of Christmas term last year, when we were all gathered together in the school hall, which seems difficult to imagine now us all being together, doesn't it? And several children came to me last week to say, please, Mrs. Scardyfield, can we have that story again? Because it really makes us feel Christmassy and reminds us all of last year. And so I'm going to give you some clues, older children, to what the story is. And maybe we're going to make a tradition of this, which is funny because the story itself is all about the tradition of telling this story every Christmas Eve. So the first clue I'm going to give you is this sound. Listen out. Have a think. In which story last year, older children, was the sound of bells or the singing of bells really important? If you can't guess by now, I'll give you another clue. Here's some music that we played at the same time, and this song crops up in this story, and it's really important in the story. See if this rings any bells. Do you remember it?
While shepherds watch their flocks by night, unseated on the ground, the angel of the Lord came down.
You'll know this bit.
Around. Sweet bells, sweet chiming Christmas bells, sweet bells, sweet chiming Christmas bells. Each year was on our heavenly, sweet chiming bells.
Do you remember now? Some of you will have guessed that the story I'm going to read all of this week, 'cause it's quite a long story, is a story that's been told by Michael Morpurgo, a very, very famous author. Year 6, you'll be studying a story by him after Christmas. And this story that we're going to have again this year is called Mimi and the Mountain Dragon. So settle in, everybody. We're going to tell this story over several days for our Christmas story, Mimi and the Mountain Dragon. Every Christmas Eve, in the little village of Dorta, where I grew up, high in the mountains of Switzerland, we have a carnival like no other. We call it Drumming the Mountain Dragon. Everyone gathers around the Great Bear, the statue that stands in the middle of the village square, sounding our hunting horns and banging our drums, and not only drums but pots and pans too. We make our way up through the streets. The children lead the way, cracking their long whips and yelling as loudly as they can, and even the smallest children join in. Wrapped up on their sleds, they blow whistles, shake rattles, or bang away on their tambourines. We troop through the village until we're out on the snow-covered slopes right under the mountain. All of us banging and clanging, shouting our defiance, letting that beastly mountain dragon know just how we feel, telling her to stay in her castle and leave us in peace for another year. Then the next evening, of course, it's Christmas Day by now, all of us gather in the village square again. Not with hunting horns and drums and whips, but with bells. Sheep bells for little children and cow bells for everyone else. We carry flaming torches, partly to light the way and partly to keep us warm. We go the same way we went the day before, but this time ringing our bells. We climb up higher than we even did on Christmas Eve, right up to the tree line below the castle walls. Here we always stop and listen to the mountains above, echoing with the sound of bells. Then we sing a Christmas carol to the mountain dragon, and always the same carol. While shepherds watch their flocks by night, all seated on the ground, the angel of the Lord came down, and glory shone around. Sweet bells, sweet chiming Christmas bells, sweet bells, sweet chiming Christmas bells, they guide us on our heavenly way, sweet chiming bells. Now, after the last echoes have died away, comes the time for the story of Mimi and the mountain dragon. The story that reminds us each year why we have our own carnival on Christmas Eve, and why we come back up the mountainside again on Christmas Day, and why this time we come ringing our bells and singing our carols. The storyteller is chosen by lottery, a name plucked from a hat. This last Christmas time, it was my name that came out. I was the storyteller. Everyone hurled their flaming torches into a heap to make a bonfire, and we clustered around it. Don't make it too long, Michael, the mayor told me. Oh, bonfire or not, we'll freeze to death up here. Always remember, the story has to warm our hearts and warm our toes at the same time. Keeping his advice in mind, I began my telling of the story. Mimi and the Mountain Dragon. This story happened a long, long time ago, before the first cars and tourists and skiers ever came to our little village. No one came here except passing tradesmen or the occasional traveller lost in a blizzard and seeking shelter for a night. In winter time, snow would cut the village off from the rest of the world for months on end. Families and their animals huddled together under the same roof to keep warm, to survive. And in summertime, every daylight hour was spent growing and harvesting corn and hay and straw, gathering berries and herbs and mushrooms from the mountainsides, fattening the pigs and sheep, making cheese and bringing in enough firewood from the forests. By Christmas each year, they were in the depths of winter, and everyone was longing for the dark nights to shorten, for the snows to melt away in spring, for sunshine to light up the world. But Christmas for the villagers then wasn't simply to celebrate the promise of spring to come, or even the birth of a baby born in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago. All the singing of carols, the ringing of bells, the merrymaking, the dancing and the feasting had another purpose too, to drive away the evil spirits they knew were lurking in the darkness outside. And there was one evil spirit, above all, that frightened and threatened them: the mountain dragon. This terrible dragon lived in the castle ruins high above the village. No one had ever set eyes on her, but everyone knew she was up there, because when she became angry, she would rage and roar in her castle lair and bring death and disaster down upon the village below. She would spew out fire, setting the forest ablaze in summer, and in winter she would shake the mountain with lightning and thunder, so that the snow would break loose and slide down the mountainside in huge avalanches. Many houses and many people had vanished under these avalanches, never to be seen again. And if anyone disappeared in the mountains, a child playing by a stream, a hunter out in the forest, a villager gathering berries, it was the mountain dragon who had carried her off to her lair in the castle. Sounds to me, children, that they're blaming the mountain dragon for just about everything. The villagers tried everything to protect themselves from this merciless dragon. They prayed in church, they laid curses on her, and every year on Christmas Eve they would gather in the village square and set out for the mountain dragon's castle, banging their drums, blowing their hunting horns and cracking their whips. "Do your worst," they'd cry when they came close to the castle as they dared. "We're not frightened of you." I think they were. "You can huff and puff all you like. We don't care. We're staying. This is our mountain, our village, not yours." Then they'd set up chanting that echoed all around the mountains and down the valley. "Death to the mountain dragon! Death to the mountain dragon!" And this was how it went on every Christmas Eve for hundreds of years. Then, early one Christmas day, the morning after the Drumming the Mountain Dragon Carnival, something amazing happened. Something so extraordinary that it changed the fortunes of the village for all of us forever. They say it all began in the year 1314. Mimi Arquint was the only child of a farming family living in a house below the little chapel of San Bastian. That snowy Christmas morning, Mimi went out across the yard to the woodshed to fetch in the logs, as she always did, every day. She was still only half awake as she opened the door, so it took a while after the brightness of the snow for her eyes to become accustomed to the dark of the shed. At first, she could not believe what she thought she was seeing. Rubbing her eyes, and blinking hard didn't make it go away. Mimi thought it might be some kind of vision left over from some half-forgotten dream. But the moments passed and the vision was still there. There could be no doubt about it. Her eyes were not playing tricks on her. It was lying there, curled up on the woodpile. A baby dragon. He was entirely green from head to tail. His eyes were closed and he was snoring softly, a strange, soothing sound, almost as if he was humming his own lullaby. Little puffs of smoke rose into the air in time with the baby dragon's musical snoring. Here we go. I'll show you the dragon. Goodness me. Imagine going to the shed and finding a dragon. I wonder what's going to happen next. You'll have to wait until tomorrow. So, children, we're into our last week of school, and my wish for this week is that it's a gentle week, a quiet week. We've still got lots of work to do this week. We've still got lots of assessments and tasks and lots of lovely things to do in school to show our learning from this term. And that's what I want from you. I want your very best behaviour, please, this week. And I want your best kindness to each other and to all the adults in school. Because everyone's feeling a little bit tired because it's been a really long and tricky term in some ways. But 1 week to go. Let's have a really, really good week together. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next chapter of Mimi and the Mountain Dragon. So, bye for now. Have a good day.